I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Geno TV and Channel 99. Our guest is my alter ego, Jason Bridges, who has filled in for me a number of times. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
And well, thanks for being here, but also thank you for your fine efforts.
I really enjoy it.
On behalf of Geno TV. It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is fun. Yeah.
You're a selectman now. Last time we talked to you, you were not.
Yes.
Have you enjoyed it?
I have. I really have. You know, there's certain things that I knew, certain things that that I didn't know, but it's a lot of work. But I really do enjoy it.
What was the biggest surprise?
Twofold. One is I really assumed that as soon as if I got elected, I thought the floodgates would open and I would be getting nasty grams, emails, phone calls, people coming to the coffee shop, want to pull my ear, and it really hasn't been that way. I've gotten email correspondence, people ask me out for a coffee or if they can bend my ear, but it's been really, I want to say nice.
Constructive,
yeah,
positive? Yeah.
I'm really surprised. I haven't gotten any, every once in a while you're walking down the street and I'm in a hurry, I got to get somewhere, and someone's like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? That's what I signed up for, so I have to stop and listen.
Yeah.
And the second thing that really surprised me, I didn't know I'd have to be a detective. And what I mean by that is you get a 140-page packet on Friday, and you kind of know what's coming up.
Right.
And you study and you read, and I knew there'd be a lot of reading. But then you have to go and be a detective. You have to ask more questions. And it's not because people are lying or they have certain self-interest. There is a little bit of that, and you have to kind of swim through it.
Right.
But you're only getting a certain amount of the story. You know, there's
not because something is necessarily being intentionally withheld, but because that's what the person who prepared it is sort of focusing on.
Right. Or it could be a presentation that someone gives, you know, so you have to be not just prepare your questions for the select board meeting, the select board now, or will be. Yeah, we can talk about that.
We'll come back to
that. But yeah, the detective work, I'm really trying to not reading between the lines, but getting more information because really you need 300 to 400 pages in a packet to get everything. And it's not just because I'm new. We have a lot of newer initiatives, like coastal resiliency, right? You know, we're going to talk about that. You really got to do your homework and you got to call people and ask questions and research.
One of your roles is as the Selectman's representative to the Capital Programs Committee.
Yeah.
I watched some of that meeting yesterday, and one of the issues that came up was I was fascinated by the conversation because I think it's something that really bears some attention. I couldn't tell who was talking. Somebody on the board brought up the issue of, when we're talking about priorities, so many of the things that the town spends a lot of money on are invisible, unless you're driving up a street that's just been dug up, or but even people don't think about the schools or I know that's not in the
IT department.
There are just a whole lot of things that go on that are not visible, that are necessary in order to make the town function. But there are things that people think are priorities because of they are inconvenienced or otherwise concerned about a particular thing, that they wonder why they don't get done. And the person who was speaking yesterday made the point, maybe we should do this particular project because it's visible and people want to see something visible. How does that strike you?
I think each project, the ones that are visible, if it's controversial, it's really hard because you see the facade of the project. If you look at, I think we might have been talking about the DPW site facility.
No, it was Four Corners.
Oh, okay. Right, very visible. That touches everyone. Everyone goes through there at some point.
Right.
And maybe it's contentious. And so I don't really know exactly how to answer the question of, there's good and bads of both sides.
Do you think it's important, let's say, in a general sense, to put some of the projects in the queue maybe ahead of where, from a pure intellectual management administration standpoint, it would be 8 down, maybe move it up so it's up at the top of the list, just to
That's the politics part of it.
It is the politics part of it.
You're looking at public perception, and is this going to get through versus what do we really need? We have these 10 big projects.
Right.
And this one's really should be number 8. Let's move it up because people think that it's more important, and it's hard to explain stormwater management, for example. No one ever will see that until it floods, right? Or 30 years from now when it's really affecting us. Why put in millions of dollars to stormwater management when we need to fix 4 corners? Like, and so those are the really good conversations that you have at Capital Program Committee. Then they go to FinCom, then they go to the board.
Right, and then the town meeting eventually.
Right.
But I've given what's his name, the transportation planner,
Mike
Burns, thank you, a little bit of a hard time occasionally about that, just because there seem to be so many of that kind of thing that impacts people's daily lives that keep getting pushed down in the queue.
I think when you look at something like a intersection and changing it from how it's always been to a mini roundabout that I know because I'm in this world, not because I'm a selectman, but because I've been on BPAC and I've worked with Mass DOT about the safety of a roundabout. It's more safer for cars. It's been proven. They've done studies. It's safer for pedestrians, for bikers, but it doesn't look safer. It looks like chaos, but it actually is controlled chaos. So I know that, but how do you get that out to the public? Which is one of the things that I've seen. It's a problem for all municipalities, but definitely ours. Is how do you explain something to the public when it's really complicated, when we're not in the kind of branding and explanation business?
But there's a whole other group of people who are saying, get it done.
Right.
It's going to make our lives a lot better.
Right.
And so you do have but that isn't a reason to shy away from it, is it?
No. I think, a lot of things, I think I said this last time, Flint Randy said a good idea takes 10 years to move forward on Nantucket. And we've been talking about this roundabout for a while, and it was really contentious, 10, 12 years ago. What's going to happen to the tree? How's this going to work? But now that it's getting to a certain level where you sit there for 20 minutes sometimes in an intersection, and now people are kind of ready for it, more so. And
it's also, the other issue that has been mentioned is that, 80% of our taxes are paid by non-residents.
87% of our property taxes.
Whatever the number is. And it's a big number, very big percentage. And those are the things that they care about, because they're the things that in the summertime bog them down.
Yes.
And shouldn't some awareness of that be factored into the process?
To me, that's one of the fascinating dynamics of this island is 9 out of 10 potholes that are fixed are paid for roughly, right, by people who don't live here year round and who don't vote. So the voters they have the control. So should they listen? Should we listen to those? I think everybody uses that in the summer, and there's no way to change it.
Right.
And I'm on the side of I don't want to spend all our transportation dollars to improve it just for cars. That's obviously a big part of it, but it's got to be for pedestrian use. It's got to be for bicycles. It's got to be for ADA, compliance, those type of things. We can't think of let's just make it bigger for cars to get through. There's a bigger picture there. I'm a bike guy, so that's how I think.
You have a little bit of a conflict, but whatever.
No, not really. Not for bike tours. No.
What about the sidewalks downtown? Where do they fit in the priorities?
It's a big priority. Here's one of, I think, the issues that we have. We've allocated money for that year after year, and we can't get it done fast enough. So how do we have project managers? How do we get, so you look at DPW, like, oh, why can't they just go stand there and check it all day and run the project? It's not that easy. We have one vendor who usually gets that RFP, but they're really busy. And so they have a small opportunity to get the sidewalks done. And so I guess I'm saying,
they miss it.
Right. Well, we have the funding for it, and we can't get it done quick enough. The other issue is we only have a small amount of time, before we can do it. You can't do it from April to November, really. Right. So you're hoping that the vendor.
You can't do it January and February. So
some sidewalk stuff you can, but it's not so easy. So there's these small windows in the RFP process that we have to go through. So there's definitely some challenges there, but it's all. You've seen the improvements on Easy Street and South Fourth that started. Well, now there's going to be the continue to Easy Street closer to Broad, and then Broad Street, that's the next piece. But there's going to be 2 public information sessions, one in January, one in February, for everybody in the public, all business owners to come and really contribute to the conversation of what they see. I mean, Harvey Young could probably tell you what the knowledge that man has on Broad Street. Like, we need to talk to him before we do any changes on Broad Street. And I've been pushing that even before I was on the board, when I was public outreach manager, of having more of these public information sessions. What we learned for the marijuana public information session was invaluable from all different sides before we got to town meeting. And I think a lot of people were heard and they understand it. They understood it better. And so a lot of things weren't even called. I don't think it's just because of that information session, but it helped.
Sure.
So I'm a big advocate for all the department heads, and any way that I can help do these information sessions, push them, support them. I think it's really important. There's so many things going on. I said the other day, I accidentally said this, it just came out. I don't know if you can rip me for this. We have big city problems with small town hurdles. And what I mean by small town hurdles is we have a board of 5 people who volunteer, who is a baker and a coffee maker and a laundry, like, and we're volunteering our time, which is easily 30 hours a week, to try to set the policy for this big city problem island. And so things don't move as fast, and we're not experts and we're not professionals, but we try to be. We try to read the 300-page packets. So I think that's another interesting dynamic of.
Goes back to the question I asked you last spring. Yeah. I'm not going to put that on the table again right now, but it does. The form of government we have does have a bearing on how quickly we can get things done, and that's not a criticism. It's just thing needs to get done, and the town meeting form of government, I think, holds things up. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's not good.
Right. Yeah. There's advantages both ways. Right. But being on the capital program committee and seeing how detailed we look at every single project, sometimes I feel guilty by asking some of the department heads, well, what's this little thing over here? It almost feels too much in the weeds. That's what capital program committee does. And then FinCom, really, really digs into it. And then the board and the town and the finance department, town administration, has already looked at it 100 times. I don't think people see how much of scrutiny all these capital requests get, whether it's personnel or capital projects. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot. What are your big issues now? Where would you like to see? What are things that you'd like to see move forward? Particularly, I'm not talking necessarily about capital projects, but just generally.
I think technology is the big piece, whether it's information technology, or just tech in general, communications, whether interdepartments throughout the whole island. I think there's some big issues there that we could spend more time on. We can make it a priority. And I think that it is kind of a sub-priority in our strategic planning session we did this past year. We have one more coming up in January at the board level. And I think that's something I want to talk about more. I want to put more money into it. I want to put more thought into it. But we need to have a plan. We need to have a chief technology officer, which we're interviewing for now, which will hopefully come in 2018. Someone who can own it and lead it. And our current IT department does a great job for what they have. We're protected. It's resiliency from hackers and like the things that, again, the invisible things that we don't really think about.
Right.
But we need to really think about the next 2 or 3, 5 years. How do we start having conversations with, utilities, Comcast? Like the Wi-Fi is only good as the cable coming over.
Right.
Like we should be putting more thought and money into technology than other towns because we're middle of nowhere, middle of this ocean. We have other obstacles than other towns of our size. So that's something I think we need to push the thought and conversation and policy on. And I'll try to lead that as much as I can. I didn't want to do it my first year because I needed just to understand everything that's going on. I wanted to get through one full year of the budget process.
But where do you really have a chance to do that? Where do you have a chance to where does any member of the board, select board, have a chance to be, to really express their views about things that are not sort of down in the weeds, which most of the agenda for most of the meetings are. How do you get your point across and get it considered and discussed?
I think we're going to have to release some of our power. at the board level, right? So maybe it's a parking commission, maybe it's a licensing board, and take those things off our agenda where we can sit there and be okay talking about something for 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we really have to flesh it out. There's some really good minds there. I want to know, and I think we're getting there, or I can turn to Matt Fee or ask Rita or Jim, like, "No, Rita, what do you mean by that?"
Mm-hmm.
And really have this conversation versus these silos of, here's what I think,
Mm-hmm.
here's what I think, here's what I think, and really having a conversation. But you look at the agenda and you're like, man, we're going to be here till 10 o'clock and you got to fly through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what you're asking me, what I'm asking back is, what those little things that we can take off, we're going to have to.
A lot of them are mandated by state law, though, aren't they?
So, well, yeah, some of them are. Like, we are the licensing board, we are the sewer board of commissioners. We do have to talk about it. But
every telephone pole move has to come to the
right,
that kind of thing.
But how do we get the professionals to weigh in, and so we can ask quick questions, and we don't always have to go with the professional answer, but we need to build those relationships that we can trust our professionals, that they've done their due diligence.
Somebody told me that the town is looking to hire a group of project managers. Do you know? Are you aware of anything?
I think there's conversation going on with either a project manager or a group. I think the idea is every big project has an owner, versus DPW might own a little bit, and the assistant town manager might have it a little bit, and no one really owns a big project.
Right.
Like, think our Eye on Home. Like, who really owned that? I mean, the whole big process. I mean, there was a building commission, and there was this. Who owns those things?
Right.
That's not the best example.
Where does the buck stop?
Yep. There's that too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I would think. It's interesting. What else do you have your eye on?
Let's see. Probably should have prepared more for that when. I think getting through, I'm really focused on just the capital projects and this budget. And how do so for example, last year we had $20 million-ish, $22 million capital requests. This year we have 80. And that, do we ask for, do we recommend all of that? You need it all. We need all of that. Is it debt exclusions? That's really where my time is going, plus our weekly packets. Mm-hmm. But I think once that kind of settles down and the budget is set and FinCom makes the recommendations and we go to town meeting, is how do we have better discussions, better policy level discussions? Like, what else do we need? Mm-hmm. Do we need to pull things off our agenda? You brought this up earlier. I really find it helpful when I can really talk to Rita or Dawn. And you can't do the serial conversations. Right. I can't call Dawn, get off phone, call Rita. Yeah. That's open meeting law violation. Right. So we have to do it Wednesday nights. How do we improve that? Mm-hmm. I think that's what I'd like to continue to work on. And there's been glimmers of lights. We've had really good Eye on Home conversations and parking, and they kind of go around, and sometimes like, okay, that makes sense, and I don't.
But aren't those initiated by a problem that's already there?
Sometimes. And
as opposed to just being able to say, the technology example is a great one because it is under the radar for most people. Mm-hmm. Most people don't understand the implications of it. Yeah. And certainly the other select persons don't get it necessarily because they're not involved. They may have it in their own business or not, but the extent to which it either helps or hinders the town in doing its job is not something they're really thinking about.
Mm-hmm. If you could really not pull any new initiatives in to our conversations and be just as busy.
Right.
And so that's what else do we bring on with coastal resiliency? Mm-hmm. There's some people who are really concerned on our island. Sure. And they brought it up and they really pushed that. It was a really good idea. We all had this conversation. So sometimes the public drives it. Sometimes it's, stormwater. Like we really need to look at stormwater downtown.
Right.
But that's a lot of money. It's a lot of consulting. It's something we don't really understand, and the public doesn't. Why would we want to spend money on that?
Well, this issue of a DPW garage is a pretty good example of that kind of thing.
But if you don't tell that story well, and it's not selling it, because that sounds like it's bad, it's explaining it. And I said this in the Capcom meeting yesterday, 2 days ago, whenever that was. How do we explain it it's not just a garage, it's a huge site facility upgrade. And if you just say a garage, nobody's going to vote $2 for a garage.
But also, I mean, even if you did just have a garage, the issue of deterioration of equipment that's left outside is a huge one from an expense standpoint, and maintenance and replacement and so forth.
Yeah, over time it could save $4 to $6 million
or more.
Or more.
Yeah.
But it's also giving all the departments the tools to do their job. And if anybody took a tour of that facility, of that main garage that they have, you would wonder how they're functioning at all. It's really bad. We need to get it done. We need to improve that site facility and not say the G word anymore. It's my new campaign. But I think until you see it, until you understand it, then it works. And my last thing is, I know we probably have to go here.
We do.
I will stop saying select board when Matt Lowell stops referring to himself in the third person. So I'll never have to stop saying select board.
No, you're right. But is there a movement afoot to call it the select board?
Yeah, it's on there's a citizen warrant article. I think there's 70, 80 municipalities out of the 350 who've already switched years and years ago to select board. And so I've used it. I've changed it in my vernacular. It gets a little tricky.
What do you call yourself?
I say I'm a member of the select board or select person, but I still accidentally say board. I say select all the time on accident. So it's going to take me a while to get used to it. Yeah, no harm. I think
Someone might argue which you shouldn't have to.
Yeah, and some would say there's benefits of going that route. I think it's progress.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you,
Jason
Dan.
Bridges, thanks so much.
Thank you.